残り物の餃子の中の具。
ベジタブルステーキ。
ベジタブルステーキ。Yes. I think. すごいスーパーアレンジで私。
Whoever said the third time's the charm was probably not as optimistic as Francois, or maybe a bit more realistic. If you're keeping up with the series, you know that in the last episode, Francois and his workaway team tried for the first time to make yaki sugi, also called sugi ban. If you didn't watch or don't remember what yaki sugi is, it is the charred wood cladding that is used on so many traditional houses in Japan. The charred quality makes the wood stronger against the elements, and it can last for up to 50 years on the house. That and its natural sustainable qualities makes it the ideal cladding for the Kominka.
That's a thing.
Mais effectivement, c'est bien. Là, ça a trop cramé du coup.
Maybe.
It didn't go as well as hoped, and sadly, Roman and Marina went off to France disappointed. But after the yakisugi fail, Francois, never the one to give up easily, was quick to work out what went wrong and make it right as soon as possible.
So finally that wall is done, but I think it looks pretty nice. And it's going to the roof. But now, before the heavy snow comes, I have to cover it with boards, make some siding to protect the straw.
The most likely problem was that the wood he'd gotten from the forestry company that he's working for was just a little bit too green. It had been cut a few weeks prior, and Francois thought it should be enough time to dry out, but that's probably not the case. The way the fire trickled over the wood without a proper catch indicated it needed some more seasoning. So for now, those boards would not work. And that meant that Francois would have to get some new boards. That wasn't a big problem. He needed more boards anyway. There is a lot of surface to cover, and a few hundred boards would be necessary. On top of that, just to give you a perspective on the time involved, the team can only burn 3 boards at a time. Each burn takes about 10 or 15 minutes minimum. It would certainly take a few days to burn enough to actually cover the house. Beyond purchasing the more seasoned wood, the process was nearly the same as before. They first selected 3 boards and inspected them for any odd shapes or warping. The boards would have to fit together fairly well in order to keep the fire inside the chimney that was created by tying the 3 boards together in a triangle. Francois used water-soaked ropes to tie the boards so as not to risk the ropes catching fire. Fire outside the chimney path would obviously be dangerous. Once tied together without any major gaps for the fire to escape through, Francois once again leaned those 3-meter-long boards against the ladder. At the base of the ladder, he put 2 bricks to keep the boards off the ground. Then, to start the fire, Francois once again created little packages of twigs, bark, and other burnable materials wrapped in a couple layers of newspaper. These little flammable packages should be enough to light those dry cedar slats. The space under the boards is where the newspaper package goes. Then Francois blowtorches it to intensify the fire, which has no choice but to move up that flue. In the first attempt, this was where the trouble started. The fire simply wouldn't catch and draw up the long flue. It just smoldered at the base, burning unevenly and damaging the bottom of the boards. But it would be different this time. That fire barreled up the path, a controlled inferno clearly visible through the narrow spaces between the slats. The spaces provided the necessary oxygen to really ignite the fire. It was clear from watching the intensity of the fire that things would be different this time. On the first attempt, the fire seemed to trickle up the flue, but never really attached to the wood, and this time it burned with a frenzy, so Francois was pretty confident in the results. And there it was, successful yakisugi on the second attempt. And I was particularly impressed with this naturally produced cladding. If you follow my other program, Our House, you may know that I also clad my house in yakisugi. But the yakisugi we used was produced in a factory using whatever automation and modern methods one might use for this process. The boards were thinner and shorter, and the charcoal part of the wood was much shallower and substantially less robust. This yakisugi looks like it will hold its color for decades to come, not to mention its natural insect repellent qualities. I was jealous to say the least, but producing yakisugi this way would be time consuming. As I mentioned, 3 boards at a time, and each burn lasting several minutes before being able to go on. The amount of yakisugi necessary to clad the back and side of Francois's house at this rate would take several days to complete. But once seeing the results, all that work certainly was justified. Simply stated, real yakisugi cladding is beautiful. In a few years, when the mass-produced yakisugi on my house starts to lose its luster, I'll be back up here with Francois, learning from the master how to make the real thing.